The chandelier sparkled overhead, dripping with crystal, casting flecks of light across the ballroom. Laughter rang through the air like wind chimes on a summer evening. Elegant and practiced, billionaire Roman Whittaker stood at the center of it all, flanked by politicians, celebrities, and men who smiled with their mouths but not their eyes. In his hand was a glass of champagne, untouched. Across the room, his fiancée, Alessandra Monroe, laughed at something a senator whispered into her ear, her hand delicately placed on the older man's arm. Everything looked perfect, but Roman's gut told him otherwise. He was a man who had built his empire on instinct, real estate, tech, pharmaceuticals, and while he smiled for the cameras, the instincts that had made him rich were screaming at him now. The maid was young, maybe early 20s, with deep brown skin and tired eyes. She moved like someone trying not to be noticed. But Roman noticed everything. He'd seen her just an hour ago, serving drinks near the rear corridor, quiet and unassuming. She didn't look up once until now. She was staring at him from across the ballroom, eyes wide, frozen in place, the tray shaking slightly in her hand. Roman caught her gaze and tilted his head slightly. She didn't blink. Instead, she set down her tray, walked forward, not toward the kitchens, but toward him. Straight across the ballroom, past guests and staff and swirling couples. It was only when she was a few feet away that Roman noticed how pale she was, how her hands trembled. "Sir," she whispered, barely audible over the music. "Don't drink that." Roman's eyebrows furrowed. She looked around quickly, panicked. "Please, put the glass down. Right now." "What are you talking about?" he said softly, still holding the flute of champagne. "You can't trust her," the maid said, her voice trembling. "She put something in your drink. Just now, I saw her." Roman's blood turned to ice. He glanced toward Alessandra. She was watching him now and smiling. A smile too perfect, too timed. The maid leaned in closer. "They don't want you to leave this party alive." Roman set the glass down slowly on the nearby tablecloth, then turned toward the maid. "Come with me." She hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes, but nodded. He led her quickly through the side hallway, away from the grand ballroom and into a quieter service corridor. The music dimmed behind them, replaced by the hum of overhead lights and the click of their shoes on tile. Roman turned to her, his voice low and sharp. "Tell me exactly what you saw." "I was coming in from the kitchen," she said. "I wasn't supposed to be in that part of the room, but one of the other servers dropped a tray, and I came around the corner to help. That's when I saw her. Your fiancée. She was pouring something into your drink. She didn't see me, but I saw her, clear as day." He stared at her, jaw tightening. "Do you know what it was?" "No," she said, but she looked over her shoulder after, like she was making sure no one had seen. Roman ran a hand down his face. Why would she? What would she gain? The maid shook her head. "You tell me, sir. All I know is I saw her do it, and I couldn't let you drink it. I couldn't let someone else cover it up." Roman looked her in the eyes and saw no lie there, just fear. Then footsteps. He heard them echoing down the hallway, calm, steady, deliberate. Roman turned his head and saw Alessandra. She stood at the end of the corridor, dressed in silver, her smile gone. "Roman," she said, voice flat, "why did you leave the ballroom?" The maid stepped back behind him, her breath catching. Roman didn't move. Just needed some air. You took the help with you. Alessandra's voice was calm, but her eyes were deadly sharp. Roman didn't answer. Alessandra stepped forward. You didn't drink it, did you? He said nothing. She gave a faint smile. Pity. That was when Roman realized she wasn't surprised. She already knew. Roman felt the air shift, like the world was holding its breath. The corridor felt narrower now, the walls closing in, the silence between them louder than the distant music behind them. Alessandra stepped forward again, her heels tapping gently on the marble. Each step sounded like a countdown. Why? Roman asked quietly, his voice raw. Alessandra tilted her head, eyes flicking to the maid hiding just behind him. Why not? Roman didn't move. Answer me. She sighed, almost annoyed. Because you were going to leave me. Roman, you were going to pull out of the merger. Rewrite your will. Change everything we'd planned. His heart dropped. You knew about that. She smiled, slow and cold. Of course I did. You think I wasn't watching you? That lawyer in Manhattan, the quiet meetings with your estate team. You weren't subtle. Roman clenched his fists. He had indeed planned to cut her out. He'd grown suspicious. Seen the way her eyes wandered when she thought he wasn't looking. The sudden private phone calls. The encrypted messages on her tablet. But he hadn't expected this. Not poison. Not murder. Alessandra looked past him at the maid. You shouldn't have said anything. She saved my life, Roman said. Alessandra raised a brow. Then she signed her death warrant. The maid took a sharp step back, her voice trembling. Please, I didn't mean to. You were supposed to be invisible, Alessandra said, her voice like ice. You were paid to blend in, to stay quiet. Why now? I couldn't let him die, the girl whispered. Roman stepped in front of her. You're not going to touch her. You think you can protect her? Alessandra laughed. You're a walking corpse, Roman. You just haven't accepted it yet. Roman narrowed his eyes. You've been playing the long game, haven't you? First the charm, the perfect woman routine. Then the contracts, the insider access. I thought I was marrying a partner. Turns out I was grooming my own killer. Alessandra's expression didn't flinch. You married an opportunist. Let's not pretend you didn't love that about me. There was a sound down the corridor, another pair of footsteps. Heels again, fast, sharp. A figure appeared behind Alessandra. Roman's personal assistant, Claudia. Except she wasn't dressed like she had been earlier now. Her coat was off, her sleeves rolled up. A strange device tucked under her arm. Time's up, Claudia said, stepping beside Alessandra. Roman stared at her. Claudia, you're part of this. Claudia grinned. Who do you think suggested the party theme? Arranged the seating. Delivered the champagne. Roman took a shaky breath. You've both lost your minds. Claudia pulled something from her coat, a sleek, rectangular object with a blinking red light. No, Roman. We just stopped pretending. Alessandra's voice softened. We gave you everything, and you wanted out. We couldn't let that happen. You know too much. What's the plan? Roman asked, his voice hardening. Kill me, then fake an overdose. Say I collapsed. Blame it on exhaustion. A heart condition. Alessandra's eyes sparkled. Something like that. You die tonight, and by tomorrow. Your will, the old one. Not the revised draft you never filed, puts everything in my hands. The board won't fight it. They'll mourn, then move on. You'll be a memorial plaque in the corner of your own empire. The maid stepped closer to Roman, whispering, "We need to run." But Roman didn't flinch. He looked Alessandra in the eye. "You should have killed me when I trusted you. Now you've made a mistake." "And what mistake is that?" she asked, still smiling. "I told someone," he said. "Before the party, just in case." Alessandra's smile twitched. "I sent files, emails, timelines, documents only you could have accessed. If I die tonight, it all goes out. Not just to the board, to the press. The FBI." Claudia's expression shifted. "He's bluffing." "Am I?" Roman replied, calm. The maid looked between them, realizing he might be telling the truth. Alessandra studied him. "You're too paranoid for that." "I learned from the best," Roman replied. Then came the sound of footsteps again, heavier this time. Security. Alessandra's eyes flicked toward the corridor behind Roman. "What did you do?" Roman smirked. "Let's just say I planned for more than champagne tonight." Seconds later, 2 of Roman's private security men entered the hall from the other side. Tall, silent, in dark suits. They approached quietly, calmly, stopping just behind Roman. "Ma'am," one of them said to Alessandra, "we're going to have to ask you to come with us." Claudia stepped forward, panic flaring in her voice. "You have no authority." "We do tonight," the guard replied, pulling a badge from inside his jacket. "Federal protection order. Mr. Whitaker is under temporary protection by D." Alessandra's face finally cracked. "You had them watching me." "No," Roman said. "I had them watching the people who watched me." Alessandra's shoulders tensed, but she didn't resist. Claudia, on the other hand, tried to run. She barely made it 2 steps before the guards stopped her. Roman exhaled, his heart still racing. The maid stood beside him, stunned. He turned to her slowly. "What's your name?" "Amari," she said, softly. He nodded. "You saved my life tonight." Amari swallowed. "You saved mine too." The guards led Alessandra and Claudia down the hallway. Roman watched them disappear into the distance. The glittering illusion of safety and love finally stripped away. He turned back to Amari. "You're not going back to cleaning tables." She looked at him, confused. "Sir, you're coming with me, not as staff, but as someone I trust." Amari blinked. "Why would you trust me?" "Because in a room full of people who wanted me dead," he said quietly, "you were the only one who tried to save me." And with that, Roman Whitaker walked away from the ballroom, the champagne glass still sitting untouched. But the poison hadn't just been in the drink. It had been in the lies, in the silence, in the smile of the woman he once believed he'd grow old with. They didn't return to the ballroom. Instead, Roman led Amari through a back exit used only by kitchen staff. The metal door groaned slightly as it swung open, revealing the cool night outside. Rain slicked the pavement, and the city skyline pulsed in the distance with light and power, like a sleeping beast just beginning to stir. A black car was already waiting, engine running, parked just where Roman had arranged it earlier that day. He'd had the whole night mapped out. A contingency plan born from instinct and paranoia. Tonight, he was grateful for both. As the car pulled away, Roman sat back against the seat, exhausted but wired. Amari sat beside him, hands folded tightly in her lap. Neither spoke for a moment. The only sound was the steady thrum of tires on wet asphalt. "You okay?" Roman finally asked. Amari nodded, but she didn't look okay. Her eyes were still wide, her breathing shallow. "I didn't mean to get involved," she said quietly. "I was just supposed to serve drinks." Roman turned to her. "You didn't get involved. You acted with courage when everyone else looked away." Amari's lips parted as if to speak, but she said nothing. Roman hesitated, then added, "You said they didn't want me to leave that party alive. Who's they? Was it just Alessandra and Claudia?" Amari glanced at him, her jaw tightening. "No, it's bigger." He narrowed his eyes. "How much bigger?" She looked down at her lap. "I didn't know everything. Just pieces. But I overheard conversations. People talking about documents, patents, offshore accounts, things that didn't sound legal. I think she was part of something, and they used you." Roman leaned forward, elbows on his knees. His mind started racing. There had been rumors, inconsistencies in the pharmaceutical division, delayed reports, acquisition loopholes. He'd dismissed them at the time. Alessandra had access to nearly every confidential file he did, and he hadn't thought twice about it. She was his fiancée. She shared his bed, his home, his secrets, and she had weaponized every one of them. The car turned down a quiet road lined with tall pines. They weren't heading to Roman's penthouse or his estate. They were going somewhere off-grid, a safe house. 10 minutes later, the car pulled into a gravel driveway. A small, modern cabin sat nestled in the trees. It looked unassuming, but it was wired with top-tier surveillance, blackout windows, and backup generators. Inside, Roman activated the security system, then handed Amari a clean towel and a sweatshirt. "Bathrooms down the hall. You're safe here." Amari nodded, eyes flicking around the cabin, clearly overwhelmed. Roman sat at the edge of the dining table, staring at his tablet. He accessed his private server, the one Alessandra didn't know existed. Dozens of files sat inside, flagged transactions, meeting transcripts, encrypted recordings. He began scanning through them with a growing sense of unease. Then he found it. A transfer. 6 weeks ago, Alessandra had moved nearly $4 million into an anonymous offshore account. It was routed through shell companies, but the signature was hers. Roman tapped the file open, lips tightening. She hadn't just planned to eliminate him. She'd planned to disappear. Behind him, Amari stepped softly into the room. She wore the sweatshirt he'd given her. It hung loosely on her frame, sleeves bunched at her wrists. Her hair was damp from washing the rain out. "Who do you trust in your company?" she asked, her voice softer now. Roman blinked. "What?" "If it's bigger than her, someone else is involved. Probably inside. Maybe high up. You need someone you trust to help you dig." Roman considered that. There were few he truly trusted, especially now. Most of the board would sell him out for a raise, and his legal team. Useless, compromised, or too slow. But there was one man, Wes Latham, his oldest friend, and the only one who'd warned him early on to watch Alessandra. Roman picked up the secure phone and dialed. "Roman." Wes answered immediately. "It's almost midnight. What the hell happened?" Roman didn't waste time. "She tried to poison me." There was a pause. Then a sharp breath. "Jesus. I have her on surveillance. Audio, too. She admitted everything. And she's not working alone. Do you need extraction?" "I'm secure, but I need help tracing the rest. I just found a money trail, and I need to know where it ends." I'm on it, Wes said. But Roman, this is going to blow up everything. I know, Roman said. It has to. He ended the call and turned back to Amari. You said you heard names. Can you remember any of them? She nodded slowly. One, a man called the broker. She said he was the one handling the exit route. I don't know what that meant, but she said he had files on everyone. Blackmail, insurance. Roman froze. He'd heard that name before. Not in business, but years ago. During a failed acquisition in Dubai, a shadow figure who worked behind corporate empires, pulling strings in the background. No face, no fingerprints, just results. If Alessandra was working with him, it meant the threat was global, and Roman had just become a loose end. Suddenly, the cabin lights flickered, once, twice, then went out. Amari gasped. Roman shot to his feet. The generator should have kicked in. It didn't. Then came the sound, faint, distant. Tires on gravel. They weren't alone anymore. Roman moved quickly, grabbing the hidden handgun from beneath the kitchen counter. He handed Amari a small flashlight and whispered, "Stay behind me." Outside, two dark SUVs rolled into view. Headlights off. No logos, no license plates, just silence and menace. Amari whispered, "Is that them?" Roman's jaw clenched. It's not a welcome committee. Someone had found them, and they weren't here to talk. Roman pressed his back against the wall, his breath steady despite the pounding in his chest. The cabin was pitch black without power, the small flashlight beam from Amari trembling slightly in the dimness. The SUVs rolled slowly closer, tires crunching gravel with deliberate caution. Roman's mind raced. They'd been careful to keep the safe house's location secret. Someone had betrayed him. He crouched low, whispering, "They know where we are." Amari swallowed hard. What do we do? Roman's fingers tightened around the handgun's grip. We don't wait for them to come inside. He moved silently to the side door, peeking through the safety glass, nothing but shadows. The moon was hidden behind clouds, leaving the clearing swallowed in darkness. The SUV stopped. Doors opened with soft clicks. Footsteps approached. Roman motioned for Amari to follow him toward the back exit. It led to a small trail disappearing into the woods. "If we split up, they'll get one of us," Roman said. Amari shook her head. "We stay together." Roman nodded. Then the door handle rattled. "Go," he hissed. They slipped out, merging into the trees as the first figures appeared in the doorway, flashlights cutting through the dark like cold knives. Roman and Amari ran, branches whipping past, the earth slippery beneath their feet. Behind them, the cabin's glass windows shattered as shots rang out, the sound echoing through the night. Roman's mind was razor-sharp despite the chaos. His empire, his life, was unraveling fast, but he refused to become a statistic, to be a footnote. Amari stumbled once, but Roman caught her arm. "We have to keep moving," he urged. They ducked behind a large oak, catching their breath. Roman's phone buzzed a silent message from Wes. "Extraction compromised. Extraction compromised. Hold position. Sending back up." Roman cursed under his breath. The broker's reach was greater than he'd feared. Suddenly, a figure moved through the trees, a man in tactical gear. Roman raised his gun, ready to fire. "Wait," the man called out. "It's me, Marcus. I'm with Wes. We came as soon as we got your signal. Roman lowered the gun cautiously. Marcus quickly explained, they got to the safe house before we did. We lost the element of surprise. Roman nodded. What now? Marcus glanced around. We're going to get you out of here. But first, we have to make sure Amari is safe. If she's seen too much. Roman's jaw clenched. She's coming with me. The group moved quickly, deeper into the woods, communicating in whispers and hand signals. Roman felt Amari's hand brush against his, a small gesture, but enough to remind him he wasn't alone. Hours passed. By dawn, they reached a hidden clearing where a helicopter waited, its blades silent. Roman climbed aboard, the cool morning light washing over him. He looked back at the dark forest, realizing the fight wasn't over, it had only just begun. The helicopter lifted off smoothly, cutting through the early morning mist. Roman sat beside Amari, the weight of the night pressing down on him like a heavy fog. He glanced at her. Her eyes were wide, reflecting a mixture of fear and exhaustion, but also something else, determination. We're not safe yet, he said quietly. Not until we bring them all down. Amari nodded. Who else is involved? Roman exhaled. The broker, the name I told you before. He's the ghost behind all this manipulating, blackmailing, controlling. Alessandra was just his pawn. She frowned. Why target you? Because I was planning to expose their operation. I was close to uncovering their money laundering and corrupt deals, and I didn't know it. But my fiancée was the one keeping me in the dark, feeding them information. Roman's mind replayed the scenes, the party, the drink, the betrayal. A life built on lies. Do you think they'll come after you? He asked Amari. She shook her head. No, but I'll help you fight. I can't go back to the shadows. Roman looked at her with newfound respect. You've been brave from the start. I want you by my side. The helicopter touched down at a secure government facility, a place where Roman could finally start his fight with the proper resources. Inside, Wes was waiting, along with a small team of agents. Roman, Wes said, clasping his shoulder. You played it smart. Sending those files was the right move. We're already tracking several accounts linked to Alessandra and the broker. Roman nodded. We need to expose everything. No more secrets. For days, Roman worked with the team, going through evidence, making calls and planning. But even with protection, the shadows loomed. One night, as Roman and Amari pored over documents in a secure room, the lights flickered again. Roman's heart jumped. Stay here, he said, reaching for his gun. But before he could move, the door slammed open. A figure stepped inside, tall, with cold eyes and a smirk that sent chills down Roman's spine. The broker, Roman whispered. The man's smile widened. Mr. Whitaker, I was wondering when you'd finally notice me. Roman squared his shoulders. You won't get away with this. The broker laughed softly. Oh, but I already have. Your empire, your trust, all crumbling. Amari stepped forward, eyes blazing. Not while we're here. The broker's eyes flicked to her. You're brave, girl. But bravery isn't enough. Suddenly, security burst in behind the broker, surrounding him. Roman breathed deeply, relief washing over him. The fight was far from over, but for the first time in weeks, hope was real. He looked at Amari, ready for the next step. She smiled. Let's finish this. Together, they faced the storm ahead, knowing that trust, once broken, can be rebuilt with courage and truth. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to dive into more gripping tales, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for new videos. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss a story that keeps you on the edge of your seat. I'd love to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts or story ideas in the comments below. Your support means the world and helps me keep bringing you the best storytelling content. Until next time, stay curious and keep your imagination alive. See you in the next story.